Failure is a part of the journey. I hope you understand that. I hope you understand that the more you fail, the closer you get to winning. Like those things are linked. Like you have to not be good at something, you have to not succeed, you have to fail to learn how to win. It's such an important concept because as a child, a lot of times, most times we're taught that failure is not a good thing, right? It's the school system. When they put that big F, that big red F on your paper, yeah, like your parents get mad and the teacher looks down and like all the stuff happens when you fail, right? When you get that big F. But the question is, as you get older and you want to say, hey, you know what? I'm trying to still go after the life that I deserve. I'm trying to still design my ideal life. I'm going to start at a place where I'm not going to be good. And those failures are going to help me get to the place where I learn how to win, right? If we reframed a child's mind to say, hey, that F doesn't mean you're not smart. It means you probably need to understand how to study better or how to manage your time better or how to deal with pressure better. Like there's a learning lesson in failing. And as you go after the life that you want, as you continue to grow, you got to learn that like you have to fail. Failure is necessary in your journey. It's necessary. So it shouldn't be looked at as something like I failed, therefore I stop, right? Because that's how we think about it. I fail, I'm not good at this thing. I put my all into it. I put a bunch of work and time and energy into it. I put some money into it. It didn't go the way that I wanted to. So now let me stop. Let me figure out a new thing. That's how most people operate in failure. But you got to know as a world-class performer, somebody that wants to design their ideal life, you got to be so like comfortable with failing. Every successful person will tell you they failed more times than they've won. You just don't know the failures. You only remember the winning. There's a saying that says like the master has failed more times than the unsuccessful person has even tried, right? The master has failed at something more times than the unsuccessful person has even tried to do that thing. That's how you get to the life you want. That's how you embrace this thing called failure in order to allow it to take you to where you want to go. John Maxwell has a book called Failing Forward. John Maxwell talks about, again, just being able to know that every time you fail, you're actually, if you take lessons from it, that's the key. It's all about how you look at it. If you take lessons from it, if you learn from it, you are actually failing forward. Failure is not taking you backwards, which is what most people are programmed to believe that the more that they fail, the more they don't have the abilities, the more they doubt themselves, the more the fear comes in of starting to do anything new. Like, and when you switch that mindset, remember, if you change your thinking, you change your life, right? So if you switch how you think about failure and say, no, I'm actually failing forward. Every time I don't do something well, I don't win at this, I'm actually getting better. There's actually learning lessons that I'm taking from this that's going to allow me to win in the future. I think Denzel Washington has a quote that says, if you haven't failed, it's likely you haven't tried, right? If you put somebody in front of me that hasn't failed at things or is not constantly failing at things, it's likely you're not trying at things. All right. Like that's how we got to start seeing failure. We got to start knowing that like if you're not, if you if you're just trying to do all the things that you like doing, that you're good at doing, aka stay in your comfort zone, you're not growing, you're not learning. Nothing's happening. It's a message I'm teaching my daughter to this day, right? Like right now, teaching her this. She's very good at some things. Takes after Papa, right? She's very good at some things. She has some things that like she's just naturally talented in and she's good at showing off those things. And I say, I want to see the things you don't do well. Let's keep working on those. And I'll applaud you for that. I'm a little bit opposite in most parents. Like most parents like applaud their children for the good things that they're doing. Cool. I rather now applaud you for the things you're failing at. I remember hearing this, right? Again, the more you take in, the more you consume this type of information. I remember Sarah Blakely's father did that. Sarah Blakely is the founder of Spanx, right? She's a billionaire. She became a billionaire in her early 30s. And she had a interview where she was talking about like the differences in her growing up. And she was like, my dad, when we would come to the dinner table at the end of at the end of our school day, he would ask us like, how was our day? And she was like, in the beginning, me and my brother used to always just say the things that were good, right? Like, oh, I got an A on this test, or right, I did well on this paper, or this teacher, right, said good things about me, or I did this well in sports. And they said, she said, after a while, he stopped applauding those things and he said, okay, well, what did you fail at today? Like, would you not do well today? And at the beginning, they couldn't think about it because they were so used to telling them the good things that they were doing that eventually they got to a place where they're like, ah, man, this test was really hard. I didn't do well on it, right? I tried in this class and man, it was really frustrating. And that's when he started engaging, like, man, great job. You're doing awesome. Like, that's exactly it. Like he encouraged the fact that they were failing, reprogram how one thinks. There's probably a direct correlation with her having that message and her becoming a billionaire in her early 30s. There's probably a connection there because in order to get there, she probably had to fail a million times, right? But it was all the programming. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to fail. That's what my dad taught me. I'm supposed to fail. Like this is good. This is what he would applaud me for. That's what we have to learn in our lives. In our text, 177 mental toughness secrets, it says the great ones are professional failures. The great ones are professional failures. It says here the majority of the differences between amateurs and pros is a subtle separation. It's a slight difference in thinking that makes a big difference in results. Let me just say that again because that's the thesis of these calls all the time, right? It's a slight difference in thinking that makes a big difference in results. The idea of failure is an example of this. Amateurs tend to believe failure is painful and should be avoided in order to maintain a sense of pride and dignity. In an effort to protect their egos, they attempt only the things they know they can do. Champions see failure as a necessary building block of mega success and treat it as a teacher. People labeled as failures are amateurs at failing. Successful people are professional failures who have failed their way to success. The difference is in their mental approach. Champions aren't in the business of protecting their egos, they're in the business of learning, growing, and becoming. One more time for the people in the back. Champions aren't in the business of protecting their egos, they're in the business of learning, growing, and becoming. They see failure as necessary course adjustments, not always pleasant, yet necessary to gain the wisdom and mental toughness it's going to take to make their vision a reality. While amateurs spend a lot of time focusing on how not to fail, pros are dialed into doing what it takes to succeed. This problem solving, execution based focus creates a greater awareness of more potential solutions. A focus on failure prevention creates an awareness of fear, lack, and poverty. One more time. A focus on failure prevention creates an awareness of fear, lack, and poverty. It's all a matter of where the performer places his attention. Hope you can understand this is wiring. If we've been wired as you're a child, as you grow up, if you've been wired to avoid failure, to not fail, to not get an F, to like, if that's our wiring, remember, I told you, ladies and gentlemen, like the key to becoming successful is unlearning and relearning new things. It's our ability to unlearn things that have been programmed in us for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years and say, that will no longer get me to where I want to go. So now I have to relearn new things that are going to help me get to that next level in life. This is one of those areas. Small, subtle shifts. I know we don't think a lot about, I think about failing. Like, I'm sure it's not like a conscious thing all the time, but this is an unconscious belief. When we focus on failure prevention, when we are doing everything to avoid failing, when we're just doing the things that we know we're good at, when we just do things that we know make our ego and our pride feel good to know that we are better than other people, or right, smarter in an area, or do better work in another area, or more talented in another area. Like that is protecting your ego, it's protecting your pride, and therefore we are not learning and growing. We're actually, it actually creates an awareness of fear. You got to understand that, right? Like by focusing on the fact that like you're not trying to fail, you actually over time get more scared to fail, and you stop your progression just by focusing on not failing versus focusing on winning and focusing on succeeding and focusing on getting to the life that you want. Then you go through the failures not focused on not failing, you're focused on how to get to success. It's a shift, ladies and gentlemen. It sounds so simple, and I know it makes sense, but it's such a hard thing for most people to do. It's such a hard thing to just have that subtle shift and say, I'm focusing on success, which means I have to fail. And failure just means I'm learning, growing, and becoming. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that like I'm not good, or I don't have the abilities, or God told me I shouldn't be doing this, or like any of the stories we create for ourselves whenever we fail, whenever things get hard, whenever we're not right the best at doing something. It says here, it's all a matter of where you place your attention. Where focus goes, energy flows. Are you focused on doing what it takes to succeed? Because if you are, then you're going to create the solutions. You're going to keep trying. You're going to, right? Who's the dude that created the light bulb? I forget his name all of a sudden, but he did it like 1,000 something times. Thomas Edison, Thomas. I don't know. I'm not a history guy, right? But like he did it 1,000 something times, and at times 682, he could have been like, yeah, like I don't want to keep failing. Like this doesn't feel good. I don't want to keep failing at this thing. Let me just stop and try to figure out something different. I'm not going to get this. No, he kept going at it till he got to 1,012 or whatever, and he finally figured it out. It's because he knew that failure was a part of how to get to success. Nothing was stopping him from 1 to 1,000. The question is like, is that how you operate? You're so focused on the task. You're so focused on the goal. You're so focused on the vision of your life. You're so focused on how you're improved, like the vision of your health, the vision in your finances, the vision in your business, the vision in your relationships, like the vision in your spiritual. You're so like entrenched in that side that you having these micro failures over time actually do nothing but teach you what to do, what not to do, how to handle it, how to not handle it. It's not a reason to stop. It's not a reason to start over again. Like it's not those reasons. This is the stuff we got to be aware of, ladies and gentlemen, if we want to go off and design our ideal life. The, Again, I'll read these first two sentences. The majority of the differences between amateurs and pros is subtle separation. Subtle, small little things. It's the slight difference in thinking that makes big difference in results. So maybe we need to change our thoughts around what failing means. Maybe you need to change your thoughts around the effort you choose to give to something when you know you're not good at it. Maybe we need to change how we think about certain areas of our life that we are not progressing in, or whatever the case is. Maybe. I would challenge you all to think about those things on this Friday. This quote says, there can be no failure to a man who has not lost his courage, his character, his self-respect, or his self-confidence. He is still a king. There can be no failure to a man that has not lost their courage, character, self-respect, or self-confidence. So let's not, and you heard in the video, let's not attribute the fact that you aren't good at something as to not having courage to do it, or right, not having the self-confidence to do it. Don't doubt your abilities. Don't doubt if this is the right path. Like failure is a part of the process. When you are idle, when you choose to not even try, that's the way you don't fail. Remember, if you're not failing, it's probably because you're not trying anything. You're not trying to get better at anything. Like you're not even putting forth effort, maybe because you have an awareness of fear, lack, and poverty. right? Maybe we don't want to, we need a plan B, C, D because we're so scared of failing that now it's creating this awareness that we could not do well. It could not go well. There can not be enough money for this. Like these are the thoughts that happen. And so don't let this stuff erode your confidence, erode your abilities, your the fact that you know that you're good at something. Don't make this something, don't make failure something, right, that is causing you to protect your ego and protect your pride. Put all that aside and say, hey, I want to get to this life and I know what I got to do to make it happen. The action step for today says, ask this critical thinking question. Have I been playing it safe to avoid failure? Have you been playing it safe to avoid failure? It says on a scale from 1 to 7, 7 being the highest, how many risks have you taken in an effort to make your vision a reality? Ask yourself that question this Friday. On a scale from 1 to 7, 7 being highest, how many risks have you taken in an effort to make your vision a reality? If you're low on that scale and you haven't taken risk, I would challenge you to subtly change the way you think about failure and let yourself know that this is necessary. And it's not always pleasant. Like it said, it's not that it's going to feel good, but you got to know that the end result is you learning, growing, and becoming the man or woman God called you to be. That's the result. But if you're not failing, you're not trying. You're not trying. That's right, Ron. He said an idle mind, right? Devil's playground. So we got to make sure we're constantly going after it. Ladies and gentlemen, I love you guys. I want you to win. You deserve to win. Your families deserve to win. If no one ever tells you that, I will always remind you someone is counting on you. Someone is counting on you to take this information and shift your mindset. Your child, your niece, your nephew, your parent, your coworker, your spouse, someone is depending on you to say, hey, no, failure is a good thing. It helps you learn, grow, and become. You're going to empower someone one day with this bit of knowledge that they're like, man, I keep failing. I don't want to try. And you're going to be like, man, I remember listening to Chris. I remember thinking about the fact that like I used to not want to fail. It was protecting my ego. Now I fail constantly. I'm a professional failure because now I get to success a lot faster. I go through the crap so much more so I can get to failure. You're going to have to give that lesson to someone. Take that lesson yourself and now start to apply it on this Friday. Go this weekend, do things that challenge you, do things that scare you, do things that, right, you have to humble you a bit. Do things that you're back to being an amateur. You're back to being a novice. You're not the best at it. Do those things. That's how you learn, grow, and become. That's going to produce all the fruits you want in your life, ladies and gentlemen, to go off and design your ideal life. Because it's too crowded down here at the bottom. It's time to get to the top of this thing. I love you guys. Enjoy your Friday. We'll see you again on Monday.